welcome to all of you. For our devotional reflection this morning, we will focus on 1 Samuel chapter 17, and our topic is the conquered giant. Now, according to 1 Samuel chapter 17 verses 3, the Philistines stood on a mountain on one side and the Israelites stood on a mountain on the other side with a valley between them. Now, this part may sound familiar. This story is fabled in Old Testament Israelite history. We often see it as an inspirational story with a good moral lesson. But this story also teaches us more. It's not just about the battles we face. It speaks about the battle against our greatest giant. The graphic portrayal of the battle between Israel and the Philistines, where David faced off with Goliath, conjures up images of the great controversy, the battle between God and Satan, this cosmic warfare. Now, verses 4 of chapter 17 says, "And the champion went out from the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath, from Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span." That's almost 9.5 feet. That's about 3 meters. Now, it was custom in ancient times to decide tribal warfare by single combat, in which the army of the losing king or the leader was considered to have been defeated. Now, let's look at a number of aspects of this particular story. Number one, everyone was surprised that this youngster called David had arrived out of the blue from nowhere and was asking as to who does this uncircumcised Philistine think that he is, talking about the God of Israel in the manner that he was. Understand, dear friends, that David wasn't a novice. He had fought battles before this one. This battle was a battle he was prepared for. He had fought against a bear successfully. He had successfully defeated a lion in protecting his sheep as a shepherd. So he had fought battles before and he had won those battles. Number two, this was a weapon that he had used successfully before. He used a slingshot. And though he was tempted, and though he tried to test the armor and the weaponry of King Saul, who obliged in borrowing him his weapon, he said, "But this doesn't feel like me, it's not comfortable, this does not work for me." He used what had gained him the victory before. He used a weapon that worked for him in his previous victories. Number three, the size of his enemy was not as important as the size of his God. He spoke big about God. He says, "I go into this battle not in my own name." It was not even about the sling and the stone. It says, I come to you in the name of the God of heaven. And this is what the secret to his success was. Now, number four, the outcome of the single combat would be that those who lost the war would then serve those who were the conquerors or the victors in the battle, of the outcome of the single combat between David and Goliath. So similarly as well, those in the spiritual battle that we won, those hearts were conquered, would serve the conquering Lord. When Jesus died on the cross for us, when he paid the ultimate price, it was that we would serve him. And we read about this in Revelation 17, 14 and 15, and it says, "And I said to him, 'Sir,'" so he said to me, "These are the ones who come out of the great tribulation and washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb." It's Revelation 7 verse 14. Then verse 15 says, "Therefore, they are before the throne of God and serve him day and night." Notice the word serve. Serve him day and night in his temple, and he who sits on the throne will dwell among them. So God's people serve him. Our hearts have been conquered by the death of Jesus Christ on the cross, and we serve him. It points also to the true champion Christ. 1 Samuel 17:16 says, "And the Philistines drew near and presented himself," the Philistine, that is Goliath, drew near and presented himself 40 days, morning and evening. He marched up and down harassing and taunting the Israelites, raising the challenge and said, is there anyone? And there was no one. There was not one single one. Not even King Saul was willing to arise and to the challenge. And it reminds us also of Revelation chapter 5 verses 3 to 5, because there likewise there was no one. It says, in fact, and no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or to look at it. So I wept, says John, because no one was found worthy to open and read the scroll or to look at it. But one of the elders said to me, do not weep. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has prevailed to open the scroll and to loose its 7 seals. One was found, just like David was the one who was willing to stand up and to take on the challenge of facing this giant. There was another champion who stood up. The Lion from the tribe of Judah, from the root of David, stood up, and he was the only one who was qualified, the only one who was able to take on this great challenge to deal with the giant of sin, a gigantic problem. Our biggest problem is sin, but praise God, the last enemy to be destroyed is going to be death. And of course, sin and death are equivalent in this sense as well. And so, dear friends, we must rest our faith and our confidence in the one who has fought this battle and has conquered successfully. Now, also, an odd battle strategy was used by David. I mean, who goes into fighting a war against the Philistines or even against their main defender, a giant by the name of Goliath, with a sling and a stone? I mean, you must understand that Goliath had full armor on, a helmet, an armor of mail right down to his legs. He had a shield bearer. And so the odds were stacked against David. It was an odd strategy for him to go, an odd fighting style. But likewise, Jesus used an odd strategy as well. Jesus won this war by laying down his life. That's a counterintuitive approach. Who fights a war by laying down his life? But this is where the power of the enemy was broken. See, when Goliath was killed, the battle was won, as the Philistines fled and were put to death or captured. Now, when Jesus died, the battle likewise was won against Satan. Even though we still face little battles, we must remember the big battle was won. Remember, the giant has been conquered. Remember, Jesus, the true champion, is with you in the battles that you face. Take heart, dear friends. Place your confidence in Jesus. Know that He has already conquered for you, and that will give you strength to face the battles in your life.